So I'll start off by telling you a bit about ourselves. We're Cloud Design Box and we support over 400 schools. We specialise in SharePoint and Teams for education. And that includes things like showcase schools. Many of those schools are part of multi-academy trusts as well, which is what we're going to focus on in today's presentation. These are some of the typical issues we come across in MATs when adopting Teams and SharePoint. Communication, there tends to be a lot of email traffic between the trust and the schools. There isn't any authoritative news source to publish news resources to everybody in the trust. And collaboration across the different schools in a MAT is difficult. For example, it's very hard to get all science teachers together across all the schools so they can share best practices. Consistency. Schools strive to standardise digital strategy and equality across the trust regarding IT services and support. Teacher workload, so teachers have to upload the resources over and over again to all the different classes they teach. And instead of saving teachers time, sometimes the technology gives them more work to do. So that's something that we want to address. And making sure that SLT have a streamlined approach as well. So it's very difficult out of the box for them to keep track of which teachers are setting assignments and with the quality of the resources being used in those lessons. And poor adoption of the technology. So you might get some teachers who use Teams and SharePoint already incredibly well and do some amazing things with it. But there might be a majority of staff who just don't quite make full use of the benefits that they could be getting out of the cloud. So it's about bringing everybody on that journey with you. And we want to make it as simple as possible so teachers can just turn up and teach across all of the schools in your MAT. So the solution we have that helps you get the most out of Microsoft 365 is we have a product that automates a central hub for the trust and also for individual schools. We can automate the classes, the subjects and the departments, as well as a whole host of other features to make teacher learning really simple across the entire trust. We also help the trust with the long-term user adoption, so we support you with your own long-term strategy. We provide ongoing support and training to help you get the most out of Microsoft 365 across the entire MAT. We're Microsoft Global Training Partners, so teachers can gain their MIE badges and their CPD certificates as they go through that training program. Even after the project has been completed, we're here to support you all year round. Our customers stay with us because we're there to help them not just from a technical perspective, with unlimited support for a technical lead, but also provide unlimited teaching and learning support for a teaching and learning lead at the school or the trust. So these are some of the benefits we're going to look at shortly. So how you can encourage communication and consistency across the MAT by having that consistent structure, training and adoption program. We're going to look at how you can centralise your shared services across the trust and make them available to everybody. And also how we can centralise resources at each individual school so teachers can save time by sharing their resources, collaborating with other teachers and reusing their resources with all the different classes they teach every academic year. And saving department leaders time by having a central place where they can check the quality of those resources because they're in a single location and they're not having to micromanage individual classes, which can be very time consuming. We've also got some analytics where you can check that teachers are setting work. And we provide that SharePoint intranet where you can publish news and information to the whole school at the school level, but also to the whole trust at the trust level as well. We work with a large number of MATs across the UK, and here's some examples. So here's some quotes from a couple of MATs that we work with. One is a Catholic Education Trust. We created a central trust site to improve communication across the trust, in addition to bringing schools on board with a solution to save teachers' time. And Cornerstone Academy Trust, a really innovative group of primary schools, and they've done some amazing things with SharePoint, Teams and Class Notebook. And we've done some YouTube videos with both of these trusts, so definitely recommend having a look at our YouTube channel and the podcasts where we interview lots of senior leaders across trusts and discuss their challenges and how they use the technology. So this is a process we go through when you go through the onboarding to get your MAT and your schools on board with Cloud Design Box. And we invite you all into a planning team. So that might be some of your technical leads and also your teaching and learning leads from across the trust. We'll then take you through any prerequisites, any things that you need to complete before the build. And once we've done the build, we'll then do a technical handover to your technical team, just how it's been set up, and a separate teaching and learning handover where we can map some of the solution features to education frameworks and go through it from a teaching and learning perspective. After that, you've got ongoing support throughout the year and also CPD certified training for the gold and platinum customers. So you've probably already got a strategy and plan in place as part of your wider digital strategy, and we're here to help support you with the Teams and SharePoint aspects of that. So it normally starts off with communicating that vision. Where do you want your trust to be in a year's time, 2 years' time? What are the benefits to the staff and the students across all of the schools within the trust? Giving key people ownership over the project. So we see it very much as a teaching and learning led project rather than just IT driven. And have a long-term plan with some milestone dates in place. So it might be you want to embed this really well over an academic year, where the first term you might have your old system and your new system side by side. Your second term, after the staff have had some training, you might decide to make your old system read-only and all the new resources go on the new site, and then eventually you switch off the old system. So it's about not overwhelming staff by changing everything overnight, but giving them the support and the training so they're confident moving to the new system, and it's very clear what the milestone dates are. And measure how well that training goes as well. So you can always adjust your strategy. It might take a bit longer, a bit shorter, depending how it goes and what the barriers are to adopting it in those schools. So surveying the teachers and the staff after those training sessions means you get some important feedback. Are there any barriers to using it, like maybe Wi-Fi or devices people have, or just additional training needs? And you can resolve those problems before you move on. So now it's time to jump into a demo, and I'm going to start off at the trust level site, and then we'll have a look at how it works for individual schools within the trust as well. So everything I'll show you today is available in both SharePoint and Teams, and we'll have a look at it from the Teams perspective shortly. So we'll start off on the trust homepage. So this is our demo trust called the Cloud Trust. And you can define what content goes on these pages. I've just got some examples on here, and we're here to train and support you on how to add attractive content to these trust level sites so you can make it look engaging and interesting. So on this page I've got some news from around the trust, and this might be my official trust news. This might be my authoritative news site where I can push news and information down, not just to the trust level site, but also to individual schools within the trust and their home pages as well. I've got important links to different areas around the trust, some of my central services and central resources. There's a map on here how to get to us, policies and information. Got some blog posts on here, but the idea is you can change these pages, you can add whatever content is applicable to your trust. But across the top here we've got the trust logo and the menu. And this menu is personalized for the individual, so it will only show you sites that you have access to. So some of these will be my central service sites. So I might have things like my trust policies. So it might be, nice, again, attractive communication sites where I can jump into the policies, information at the trust level. So I might also have my central teams on here. So teams are people that work together across the trust. They might be based in different schools, or they might be based in our head office, and these are secure teams where people can work together in secure areas. So a replacement for some of those traditional shared drives that you might have currently. And then we've got MAT-wide academic departments, and these are automated from each school's MIS. It injects the relevant teachers into those central MAT academic departments. And that's a place where they can share best practices, share resources as a trust. And we'll now have a look at the school level sites. So what you'll see here is we can add as many schools into a tenant as you need, and they can each have their own branding, whether that's consistent with the trust or individual to the school, their own branding and colours, their own menus. So for example, I might have a secondary school like Cloud Academy, I might have my junior school We've got Cloud Junior School. I might have a primary school on here, and again they can all have their own look and feel, their own content on those pages. In the context of this demo, I'm just going to show you the secondary school as an example. So this is the school branded intranet that we create, and you'll see that you've got things like the school logo at the top. We've got some important links. We've got news from around the school, and any authoritative news will be banded with the red with the highlighted banner at the top of the news item. We've got things like word of the day and links to important places. My assignments from teams get fed into here, my class teams, and there's some useful blogs on the page as well. But the idea is you can edit these pages and you can add whatever content you want, and we're here to help support you do that. But we're just giving you that starting point to get started. And across the top, where you've got the school logo and school colours, you've got the menu. And when you open this up, it gives you access to all the sites and teams that you have access to across the entire school. So this menu is personalised for you, so you'll only see the items that you have access to. So going across the columns left to right, you've got the communication sites, and this is your traditional SharePoint intranet, where you've got access to this is where you can publish resources to wide audiences across the school. So you might have something like a library site, where the librarians might update this site, might put things on like books of the week, countdown to World Book Day, but everybody else can just see the site and they can visit it. You might have a staff site, which might be your staff room, where you could put things like policies and staff handbooks. You could have your weekly or daily lunch rota, staff briefing posted on there, your staff only news. And the idea is, again, with this site, you can grow these pages over time. So you might do things in SharePoint such as upload your policies and put in expiry dates and set reminders. And again, that's all available out of the box. You've then got your collaboration teams, and these are your non-curricular teams where you can work together in small teams of people in secure areas. The idea behind this is eventually it's going to replace your on-premise file shares that you might still have. And again, this is a better, more secure place to store those resources, but everybody gets the full benefits of moving to the cloud, so they can access it anywhere on any device. So a quick example of that, if I was in the data team, I would see the data team link here. And if I go into that site, I can see all the channels in here. I can go into the exam analysis channel, and I can work on my documents within SharePoint. You'll see I can also switch into the Teams view, and inside Teams I can do my chat and my video calls with the rest of the data team. And in Teams I can click the Open in SharePoint button and come back into this view where I've got things like recycle bin and version history built into this. So you can go in either way into those teams. It's just to make it easy to access in a well-governed menu. And then I've got my curriculum areas, so my classes, my subjects, and my departments. And your classes are created from your MIS data automatically every academic year. So a typical secondary school might have 1,200 of these created every academic year. And one of the main problems with that is if I'm a teacher and I teach, 4 different history classes every academic year, that means I have to upload my resources 4 times every academic year, which is more work for me as a teacher, but it also means that I've got different versions of different resources and different teams. So it's a lot of duplication of resources. So what we do is we create some centralized resource areas that both teachers and students can access. And again, these are created and populated automatically from your class data. So if I was a history teacher or if I was a student enrolled on history, I would see the history link here. And I can open up the history site, and I've got some staff-only resources available, and they're also available in a staff-only team where staff can chat and video call and have their meetings together. But then there's also some student-facing resources that students can see, but they can't edit. And you'll see that in this example, I've got U-group-based libraries, but as I go up through the school, I'll get access to more and more resources. So if I was in Year 11, I can see previous academic years, such as Year 11, but I can't see any age-inappropriate content. But you might decide to have it key stage-based or course-based, depending how you teach the curriculum. And if I go into the Year 11 library, You see it's a normal SharePoint library that you can drag and drop your documents into. You can create your own folder structures in here, but the idea is that you can tag resources in here if you wanted to, and it's automatically security trimmed, so you don't have to mess about with permissions or adding teachers and students to it. It all gets populated automatically from your class data. So there is the option to tag resources, and I could tag it with something like an exam paper, an exam board. So I could tag it with, AQA, Key Stage 4, and that will drill down into those resources that have been tagged with those specific tags. But SharePoint Search works really well even if you don't tag resources, and that's completely optional for the teachers who look after those areas. In addition to the subject sites, you've also got the department teams, and these are staff-only areas where you can share resources across your department, but it's also a place for line management and CPD. So you get a staff notebook inside the department team. So for example, you might have history, RE and geography as separate subjects that you teach, but there might also be a requirement for a humanities department where your line manager can do some line management appraisals, or you could do some CPD tracking within those staff notebooks. When it comes to your class teams, we can open up the class dashboard, and I can quickly and easily see all the classes that I teach as a teacher, or all the students or all the classes I'm enrolled on if I'm a student. I can go back to a previous academic year. If you've been using this for more than a year, you can go back, you can see your archive classes from a previous year. And that's just a really quick and easy way to get into those archive classes. If I select one of these classes, so this history set 1 class, I can see all the students in that group, and again your pictures come from your MIS system, and I can jump straight into that class team, straight into the relevant area within Teams. So if you're already familiar with Teams and class teams, I'll just show you the extra things that we add on to make life a bit easier. So for example, you might have 1,200 class teams in a typical secondary school. And what we do is we automatically add on an extra tab for every single history class, every single academic year, to those long-term resource areas that we just saw earlier inside SharePoint. So these are those same Elizabethan England resources that we just saw earlier inside SharePoint, but they're available to the student and the teacher without them even leaving the team. So they'll always be available every academic year. So as a teacher, you don't have to keep uploading resources to every single class team. They're always available. And as a head of department, you've got one place to prove the quality of those resources in your central resource area. And of course, there might be requirements for differentiation, and that's okay. You can always copy it into your class team from that master copy. But you could even share those differentiated copies back into that central resource part. So you've got a place for your more advanced resources and your beginner resources available to everybody. Because we create those central resource areas as teams as well as SharePoint sites, it means when you do come to create a new assignment, when you come to attach a resource from the team, you can quickly and easily grab that history team, grab that Year 11 Elizabethan England worksheet, and I can just use it directly in that assignment without having to download and upload resources. So hopefully going to save you a lot of time. We can also sync the parents from your MIS as well. And Microsoft provide a weekly email digest that they send to those parents. So parents can get a weekly summary of what work's overdue, if they've returned their work on time. So it's really quick and easy way for parents to keep engaged with their students' work inside Teams. And Microsoft also have plans for a parental app, which should be released in 2023. Another thing we add into these class teams are student folders. And you'll see that every student gets their own folder in here. Teacher can see everybody's, but the student can only see their own. And that's just a quick and easy way to drop off some work with that teacher. So typically you might use Class Notebook, you might use assignments, but there might be other situations where you need to drop off maybe a media file or some other documents for that teacher. This is a quick and easy way to do it, much easier than trying to share it from OneDrive and then remember where all the links are for all those 30 students in that class. So we'll create those potentially 1,200 class teams and automate them and sync the memberships overnight. Would also create the subject teams and would automatically synchronize those users as well, and the department teams, and again those get automated from that class data. We can also create an all teacher and an all staff team as well. So it's a place where you can improve communication, get rid of that email traffic, and just help connect up the departments across your school. We mentioned earlier that everything we're showing in SharePoint is available in Teams. So if you've adopted Teams really well already, we can set up something called Viva Connections, which is an app inside Teams, which brings your SharePoint intranet into Teams. So you can, again, easily access everything from within Teams itself. So if you want to track student engagement in Teams, you can do that out of the box with Insights really well. And there's also Premium Insights, which unfortunately you have to pay for, but Microsoft also provide that. But one of the things that we provide with our solution is the ability to track teacher engagement and how well they're using Teams assignments. So we've got an analytic dashboard. You can export this for your own Power BI dashboards if you wanted to. You can show how much assignments are being used over time. You can sort it by the concept of a subject. And so if one subject's using it really well but others aren't, you could focus your CPD and training time on those subject areas. I can drill down into that subject and see how well they're using it. I can drill down into an individual class and I can see what assignments were set, when they're created and when they're due. And we are going a step further with this. Early next year we're going to release an assignment lookup tool, so teachers who don't normally teach a particular child, they can look up that student and they can see what assignments were set and where they are with them, if they're overdue, if they've been graded. While we're in this admin portal, you'll also see there's a cover manager where you can quickly and easily grab a teacher and add them into a class that they don't normally teach. And you might add them in for a single day if you're observing a lesson, or for a whole week if they're self-isolating, or to the end of the academic year if you wanted to. Click Save, it'll instantly add that teacher into that class team and automatically remove them. So again, as a head of department, you don't need to keep track of the quality of the resources because they've got the central resource areas. So you don't need to go into every single class team to check that. You've got the analytics to make sure that teachers are setting work without having to individually check all of those class teams across your department. And if you did need to observe a lesson, you can use a cover manager to temporarily jump into a class team and see what is happening inside that class team. And you can even delegate this to your data manager so they can do quick and easy cover in here. Ideally, they change it in the MIS and it all syncs across overnight, but we know that's not always possible. So this is a flexible solution for that. And if you did want to create extra SharePoint sites inside that menu, then you can always fill in a form here for either a team site or a communication site, populate the form. So I can create a training team, add it with one of the templates. It could be a staff template if you've got things like line management through the staff notebook. Add it into one of the menu columns and type in the owners and the members. And as soon as you click Save, it'll start creating that site. It'll permission it, it'll make sure it's a private team, not a public team, so you don't get your data breaches. Add it to the menu, add the web parts of the page, and you're ready to go. There's a nice audit trail of who's created what site. And again, you can lock this down and you can delegate it to people who aren't SharePoint admins so they can just create sites in the right format. So in terms of the solutions that we provide, we've got silver, gold and platinum packages. Everything we've looked at today, except for the self-service training portal, is available in all of those packages. The only difference between them is that with gold and platinum, we focus on user adoption and rollout. So we have trainer-led online workshops where staff can watch a quick demo and do some tasks. We've got the self-service training portal. Staff can gain their CPD certificates and MIE badges from attending those sessions. With Platinum, there's more trainer-led workshops. There's options for things like on-site training and also a digital strategy report for leaders where we look at the stats of the usage stats of how it's being used in the school or the trust. And then we put that together with an interview with a curriculum leader and then provide some feedback on how to improve the digital strategy moving forwards. So we can get started as soon as you're ready. And in terms of what happens next, well, we invite you into that planning team. There's an introduction meeting where our onboarding lead will go through the setup and the process, and provide you with all the documentation that you need. Once the site's been built, you'll get the chance to review the site before it's handed over, and then we'll do a technical handover to your technical team, just how it's set up and how it works, and then a separate teaching and learning handover to your teaching and learning leads, and that will go through how to use it from a teaching and learning perspective. We'll map it to things like educational frameworks, and then after that you're live, you're ready to go, and we provide you with that ongoing support throughout the year, and also the CPD certified training if you purchase the gold or the platinum options.